first, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
And hello, everyone. Welcome back to Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibler, and as we always say here, I am appreciative of you joining us today. We are live streaming here from the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom, as we do for every show. So if it's your first time finding us, thanks for doing so. Be sure to check out all of our other content, the Fox 12 Oregon YouTube channel, KPTV.com, or the Fox 12 Now tab, or on the Fox 12 Oregon apps, because we cover a wide range of things here on this show every day, getting to have a little bit longer conversations than we normally would on other platforms. Right now, though, we are talking about New Year's. It is not yet 2025 as I speak, so New Year's Eve, New Year's Day coming up, and of course, a lot of people are going to be going out there and having a good time, enjoying themselves, hanging out with friends, going to parties, doing whatever, but it's also important to remember to stay safe and healthy while doing so. And so that's what we were talking about with Dr. Ann Toledo from Kaiser Permanente. She joins us to give us some safety tips. Some of this may be things you already know, but maybe aren't doing in practice. And so it's important to be reminded of why it's important to do this and what to watch out for, and to find out some of the things that they see coming through as well. So I'm going to pull this up right now. I will say during this interview, I did speak to her a little bit earlier. I had a little bit of an audio issue. So if you see me doing this, that's because I was recording the interview and adjusting the sound on the fly. So that's what I'm doing, just to answer that question. If you do have that, then it shows up in the comments. Here we go. Dr. Ann Toledo on Fox 12. Well, Doctor, thank you for having some time to talk to us today about this. Really appreciate it. And clearly, New Year's Eve, everybody's going to be, not everybody, but a lot of people are going to be out celebrating or having fun, whether there's families or going out. And kind of the last thing you want to do or think about ending up in is ending up in the hospital, or ending up, having an injury or something happen. And so that's why I think it's really great to have you on here to talk about this. And I'm curious, from your standpoint, what are some of the most common injuries and things that you see happen surrounding New Year's Eve and a holiday like this?
Yeah, so thank you so much for inviting me to rain on this parade that is New Year's Eve. No, it's such a fun holiday, and what I want most for people is them to not have to see me at the end. So what we see are absolutely people who are celebrating hard and might be drinking more than they normally drink with their friends. That is by far one of the most common ways people both get sick from alcohol alone, or they get hurt. I'm sure everyone knows somebody who has fallen down and cut themselves, broken something, hit their head while using alcohol, and we see people in urgent care and emergency rooms for that all the time. And so just some basic things, going right back to basics. I remember once when I was working in the ER, I told a very drunk person what their blood alcohol level was, extraordinarily high. And they said to me, "Oh, what's normal?" I said, none. None is normal. I think what I try to remind people of is it's just eating food, drinking enough water, and pacing yourself, right?
Right.
Your body can only get through, on the best of days, 1 drink an hour, if that. It's going to take time. So you've got to slow down, drink water or a sports drink between alcohol, and not a sports drink with Red Bull in it or something else that's going to make you sick, just something really hydrating. And make sure you eat food before you go out and while you're out. And whatever you do, just try to stay off the road, right? Don't get in a car with someone who's been drinking. Do not drive yourself if you have been drinking, even if you think you're okay. First thing to go is your sense of whether you're okay. And better yet, just stay away from the roads, because other people might not be making safe choices.
I think all those things, I've definitely gone through that with other people. Maybe not like that's normal. But looking at that as far as the pacing yourself. So, you mentioned drinking sports drinks, drinking water, I would imagine. So maybe have your drink something else afterward, drink a water or a sports drink afterward, try to balance that out. Would that be a right way to go about it?
Exactly. This is the classic recommendation of layering your drinks, right?
Yes.
If you have an alcoholic drink, the other thing is that one alcoholic drink oftentimes is not what you're saying, right? So in bars and in people's homes, They are probably giving you maybe 2 alcoholic drinks in one a lot of the time. So remember that. And that you need to give it a good hour, a non-alcoholic drink before you pick up something else. Try to schedule yourself.
So pace
Your
that.
body and your toilet will thank you the next day.
Yes. Yeah, I have this is, maybe too much info, but I have a good friend, Nicole, who hammers that home, and that has stuck with me. Like, now you're going to drink some water, now you're going to have this. So she's a good regulator of that. But if you don't have a Nicole, make sure you're regulating yourself, essentially.
Exactly. Pick a team mom to stay on everyone's case on the hydrating. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. So definitely watch out for that, for the alcohol side of things. And then, looking at it, say, should something happen, and whatever that could be, I guess let's get to that here in just a second. But what are some of the other common things that you see happening? I mean, certainly alcohol being one of the number one issues. Are there any other general things that maybe people aren't thinking of that they should be paying attention to when it comes to New Year's Eve?
Yeah, absolutely. So the other thing to know is that there is no blood alcohol level needed to operate fireworks. In fact, the best would be 0. So, if you're going to be using for things that burn, have the sober person do that, and definitely do not give them to people who have no business operating them, like children. So I think that's the other thing we see are hands, face, eyes. We'd like you to take those things with you into the new year. So please be really careful with fireworks and be safe. The other thing that we see are, people are throwing parties and cooking. And in urgent care, at least, by far, there's 2 cooking injuries I see all the time. The moment I see a cut on my schedule, I am willing to bet it is one of these 2 things, and this is what they are. It is someone cutting an avocado or a mango, holding it in their hand, or it is someone cutting a mandolin, those thin slicing, and they're not using a guard and they get the tip of their fingers right off. Those are the 2 things that are really preventable, that if you're making a fancy dinner, just take those precautions, use the guard on a mandolin for your fingers, don't hold things in your hand and then swing a knife at them.
I mean, that does seem like common sense, although I've probably put myself in near danger of that before as well. You get in a hurry or you're talking. Very important, though. As you mentioned, I do not, I don't want to end up there with a cut off finger or anything like that, or dealing with any of that. So nobody else does either, I'm pretty sure.
No one wants that. Yeah.
When it comes to that, there is something that I feel like could be of a concern for people. So say something does happen, and it's not obviously, life or death situation, but how do you decide whether urgent care or emergency room is the right option depending on what the injury is?
Exactly. When you're running around your kitchen saying, "Oh my gosh, where do I go? What do I do?"
Yes.
Holding your bleeding finger. So a good rule of thumb in our urgent cares, and most urgent cares, are going to be able to repair a cut that is a few centimeters, I guess, or an inch or 2 long, right? So we're going to be able to close that if you have a very big cut, multiple inches or multiple large cuts, or it's enough blood that it's shooting out of the cut instead of just sort of oozing. That's when we worry about, is there more significant injury to a blood vessel? Do we need to do a big repair to get this closed, right? And that's when we're thinking, do we need to be in the ER for things like cuts? I think for the other big one you and I talked about, if someone is really drunk, this is something people underestimate, and I'm by no means trying to send every basic drunk person to an ER. But sometimes people overlook when it's crossed between a drunk friend who can take care of themselves and be sick for a day and a poisoned person who is really bad. And I think when you're out with your friends, if you're in a situation where someone is so out of it, it's hard to wake them up, or they really can't get around at all, you're carrying them around, then is when I'm getting worried about, is this person actually safe to be unsupervised, or do they need some care before they can be home by themselves?
And just to go through that one more time, because I think that is really important. It's something that a lot of people may not think about. Like, what are some of the key signs that you can look at, say, if you're with someone and you're not sure if they can take care of themselves, or, you know, maybe they've just partied a little bit too much and they're going to be fine and handle it on their own?
Yeah. Yeah, right. Drunk people are tricky, right? Because they all seem
Yeah.
a little out. Yeah. And so again, so I think when someone is still able to talk to you, engage with you, they're walking around, they're talking, even if they're not super coordinated, it may be that you can still work on caring for them and they're fine. When I get really worried is when it is really hard to wake someone up. They really can't get around. And then certainly also if you know how much they drank and they seem way more drunk than they should for what they had, that could be a sign something else is going on. And so that's when I want people to pay close attention to their friends and think about, do I need to stay with this person? Do I need to take them somewhere and make sure they're okay before they're home alone?
Yeah, excellent. So pay attention to those things and make that decision. Any other big thing that you think people should be aware of here, just for these health and safety tips? You've given us some good advice, and for everybody, things to think about, how to not end up in that point. But anything else that you think is good for people to know?
I think another important thing, not exactly New Year's, but just terrible luck this year, influenza A is surging big time. So don't share drinks with your friends, and so you don't come down with flu A right on top of a hangover. Ideally, you know, that does mean that ERs are very busy, as are urgent cares right now, because people are really sick. And so the more you can prevent yourself from getting too sick and having to be there around all of that flu, the better for you. And then, you know, last but not least, on holidays in the United States, we eat a lot of really salty foods. And people who have heart problems and people who have kidney problems, when they eat a lot of salt, it can make it really hard for their heart and their kidneys. And they get so sick, sometimes they're in the hospital. And so if you're someone living with that, please remember to try to hold back on all the salt so you don't get so sick that you have to go be seen in the hospital after a big celebration.
Great advice. Definitely there on that influenza A. Influenza A. You want to avoid that, everyone out there. Trust me. And yeah, just great advice in general, not just for New Year's, but you know, all the time. But specifically here for everybody out there who's going to be celebrating and maybe overdoing it a little more than they normally do. Great stuff. Well, thank you very much, you know, for having some time to talk to us about this and get the word out there. Really, really appreciate it. And I hope you have a great New Year's.
Likewise, I hope you have some fun and safe plans.
Awesome. All right. Again, Dr. Ann Toledo there from Kaiser Permanente. Really appreciate her time and joining us to go through those things. That might be one of those segments that if you feel like sharing and letting other people know about it, you can go to our YouTube channel for Fox 12 Oregon. Click on that live tab or the Fox 12 Now tab, and you will see it on there. And you can share that segment, let other people know about it, and good things to think about ahead of time before you start going out there and having some fun for New Year's, or maybe, you know, the friends that you're around, to watch out for them as well. Again, you can check out all of our segments at the aforementioned YouTube channel at kptv.com or the Fox 12 Now tab, or as always, under the Fox 12 Oregon apps, which you can download across a number of different platforms. So a good way to catch this show and then everything else that we do here with Fox 12 Oregon. Anytime there's breaking news between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m., this is also the place to go. So we will have that for you. We will get you the information as soon as we do, and we can live stream it directly to you. So that's one advantage that we have here. So we will talk to you soon. I'm Greg Nibler. This is Fox 12 Now.